It's just... This is an interview I've been looking forward to doing for some time. Michael Woods. It's a face and a name that we're now familiar with. You've won a couple of Grand Tour stages and you've been on the podium in the World Championships. But 3 years ago, when you burst out of the pack on the corkscrew climb at the Tour Down Under, I don't think even the commentators knew who you were.
No, yeah. I think Phil Liggett messed up the call when I was going. He thought I was Alberto Bettiol just because he didn't expect a Canadian to be attacking on the corkscrew.
And more or less a neo-pro at that point, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was my first race for under Slipstream Sports. First race for Cannondale. Wasn't my first World Tour race. Fortunately, we in Canada we're really fortunate to have the Montreal and Quebec World Tour races, and so I was able to do the Montreal and Quebec Grand Prix under the national team, kind of like UniSA here in Australia. But yeah, I was really fortunate and got to those races, so I had a bit of experience. But my my first race under a World Tour kit was here in Australia, and I had a good one on the corkscrew.
A lot's happened in the time since then. Do we talk straight about Innsbruck? Because I mean, it was a spectacular moment. You and I caught up the other day just before the race, and I was telling you that my favourite photo of last year was with Valverde and Bardet on one side of the road each, looking behind to see who is this guy. Yeah,
that was a great photo. Innsbruck was an amazing experience for me for a number of reasons. The first one being the fact that I sat down with Kevin Field, who's our performance director at Cycling Canada, and my coach, Paul Saldana, and I sat down with them over a year before the World Championships. We were in Victoria, and we talked about me potentially medaling at the World Championships. And at that time, although I had some results that were great, I finished 7th at the Vuelta at that point. Podiuming at the World Championships still seemed like a very lofty goal. And in the meeting, Kevin talked about putting Rob Britton, one of my teammates, up the road in the breakaway. He talked about Antoine Duchesne and Hugo Houle, two of my teammates that would help me out throughout the race, how we'd have a dialed plan. And in cycling, often the best laid plans never work out.
No.
They go to crap.
Yeah, generally.
They fall apart.
It is a lottery.
Often that's the case. And so when I was listening to Kevin make these plans, I was just like, man, these are lofty goals, and like, let's slow down here. We've got a year until this race. But sure enough, it just kind of everything fell into place. And in Innsbruck, it was like I was Neo in the Matrix.
Michael Woods onto the wheel. Is Michael Woods going to give Canada the world title?
Alaphilippe is going. Alaphilippe has gone. He's out of the shot.
He's cracked Julian Alaphilippe, the pre-race favourite. Now it's side by side on the road between Woods and Valverde. Looks easy. Woods goes, but I think they're playing into the hands of Valverde here. Bardet at the front, so Michael Woods of Canada, Romain Bardet of France, Alejandro Valverde of Spain, and Gianni Moscon hanging on.
I had incredible legs, great form.
Michael Woods looks across, looks at Valverde and Bardet. There's only 3 riders left now at the front of this race.
Everything that we'd planned a year out, and even over the course of our calls leading up to that race. Also, Kevin's a really open guy, and he contacted JV, my team manager, as well as Juan Manuel Garate, one of my directors, and they hatched a plan based off of how they thought the race would play out, and it played out exactly as they predicted. And all of a sudden, going into the final climb of the day, I found myself sitting 5th wheel behind Thibaut Pinot, Alaphilippe, Romain Bardet, and Moscon. My goal going into that race was be 5th wheel at the base of that climb, and the whole goal for that race was to make sure that I used France as my reference point. And so I had the 3 best French climbers in front of me. I was sitting 5th wheel as I'd hoped. Rob Britton did a great job getting in the breakaway. Antoine and Hugo helped me out throughout the day. Even in the recon, when I did the recon of the course, I went up the climb and there was a 4-minute segment where I did an interval, and I thought to myself, if I can just do that effort again, I'll be able to drop everybody.
The Devil running alongside Valverde.
Well, that shows how steep it is.
Or at least most guys. And when we hit that point, I was just like, I had the legs. So I was like, I'm just going to do that 4-minute effort.
Oh, is he struggling?
Valverde.
He's got to be. Woods is really starting to put it to everybody here.
Michael Woods now accelerating for Canada. He's putting Moscon in difficulty. Moscon's legs snap. Moscon is cracked. Michael Woods is going for glory here. Behind him, Roman Bardet. Are they going to get rid of Alejandro Valverde? This is the biggest chance for Michael Woods.
And that happened. And it was a really weird experience and surreal moment for me, because you spend so much time thinking about how you want to like try and drop these guys, but you don't think you're actually capable of doing it. And then all of a sudden I was. And the race played out exactly as we planned, all the way up until just until 300 meters to go, when Valverde started out the sprint. And when he sprinted, I thought I was going to win for sure. He went, and I thought he went way too early, and I came out to go around and then cramped up. A huge electrolyte cramp. I went from thinking I was going to win to trying to hold on for third place, and I crossed the line devastated. I thought, like, yeah, I was devastated. My soigneur, who also works for our team at EF, named John Adams, he was so surprised that I podiumed, and I was so surprised I messed it up. We were like the total opposite ends of the emotional spectrum. But after a few minutes, I started realizing how great of a race it was and how big of an accomplishment it was. And yeah, even now I look back on that race and just feel a lot of pride.
In third place and winner of the bronze medal, representing Canada, Michael Woods.
Michael Woods takes the bronze medal.
For me, particularly, the global championships mean a lot, coming from a running background, particularly. When I ran the Olympics, the World Championships meant everything. And even as a kid, when I watched, the national hockey team play, or track stars like Donovan Bailey win the Olympics in '96, or Simon Whitfield in 2000 in the triathlon in Sydney, you felt this amazing amount of pride, and you felt like we did this. And so when I was watching the Canadian flag go up at the podium ceremony, I started thinking about maybe there's a kid also watching TV in Canada thinking we did this, and that was a cool moment.
At this point, we could go off on many tangents. We could talk about running, we could talk about Canadian cycling, we could talk about EF, obviously. There's a lot of change happened there. What floats your boat at the moment? What gives you the motivation as we start 2019, and it sort of feels like a blank canvas?
Yeah, 2019, especially over the course of the last week, there's a lot of excitement for me and for this team. EF came on board last year and saved the team. They made a big difference in sponsorship and saved our team, and now we're just called EF Pro Cycling, EF Education First. And that, in concert with Rafa coming on board as a clothing sponsor, there's been a lot of buzz around the team. We've got these amazing kits this year. We look super unique, we look cool, and also just the new trajectory of the team, focusing still on the traditional racing calendar, but also doing non-traditional cycling events. Personally, I think that is where the sport's going. When I look at running, for example, I'm a huge fan of running, but it's a dying sport, and track is really struggling. And when I think of cycling right now, I really can see a lot of similarities to running in the 80s. in the 80s, you had this burgeoning marathon scene. You had New York, Boston really starting to come up and people jogging and doing marathons. But you also had huge track stars. You had guys like Carl Lewis and Sebastian Coe and people that were big names in track. But the two couldn't really marry themselves to each other, and track went in one way and marathoning went in a different direction. And now 99% of people who do marathon can't name the guy who won or relate anything to track and field. And cycling's in that kind of 80s moment right now where we've got this burgeoning cycling scene, Grand Fondos, Dirty Kanza, like all these cool events that people are getting into, and they're more mass participation events. You have a strong cycling scene with superstars, but the UCI is not really doing a great job in terms of marrying the two, and they're going in one direction, and these other Grand Fondos, these mass participation events, they're going in another. And if running's at all an example of what happened 20 years from now, they're going to be completely separate and one's going to be dying. And that's likely going to be what we do, professional cycling. So I think what we're doing with EF is really exciting because we're not taking that traditional route with the UCI with, it's bogged down with gender inequality and bogged down by, antiquated ideas. We're going in a new direction, and that's exciting. And I think a lot of people are going to be excited to get on board with it.
If I ride with my children and we're getting to the top of a hill, I said, boys, the victory is getting to the top. It's not about beating someone across the line. It's your sense of satisfaction. And I think that's where we're at with cycling, with what you've referenced, the Dirty Kansas or Grand Fondos, where people are just, it's the challenge that's the victory. It's like why marathoning became popular.
Totally. Yeah, and I still think pro cycling is an exciting and beautiful sport. And I still think track and running are beautiful sports as well. It's just... you also have to, sports evolve, sports change. American football wasn't the biggest sport in America in the 1950s, but now it is, but you can also see it's fading with, the racial inequality and just the head traumas as well. It's a sport that probably in 15, 20 years, if they don't make major changes, won't be around. So you have to evolve. We think of these sports, we think of certain sports as these institutions, these monoliths that have been around forever, but they haven't. Even cycling is only 100 and some odd years old. But yeah, so that's why I think it's really exciting to be on this team. You're moving in this new direction, and it's an exciting direction.
Yeah. So if other guys are setting themselves their little local challenges, what do you do in Canada? Have you got something set aside for 2019 that's your sort of out-of-the-box cycling showcase? Yeah,
well, I think there's a couple things, but a lot's going to depend on my schedule this year. I still am really focused on the pro cycling scene. That's my main focus at the moment. I love racing my bike, and I like the challenge of doing Grand Tours. I'm really excited for the Tour de France. I want to try and do the Tour de France this year. But also I want to focus on the Belgian Classics, the Italian Classics. However, if there's an opportunity in the schedule, I'd love to try and do a race like Leadville. It's a race that I ride my mountain bike quite a bit in the off season and even in season. And it's something that's really interests me.
I wonder if there would ever be an opportunity to get 20 pro cyclists together and say, okay, today we're going to do mountain biking, tomorrow we're going to do track, the next day we're going to do a time trial, the next day we're going to do a road race, then the next day we're going to do BMX, and the next day we're going to have just shit fun on a commuter.
I mean, you basically have that right now with their team. You have 25 guys on the team that are going to be doing that this year. You have guys that are going to dabble in all disciplines, and I think that's one of the reasons why I have a lot of excitement towards being on this team.
When people are new to cycling, there's this reference point of they're new and they won't know how to handle themselves on a descent. you seem absolutely capable based off what we can see in Innsbruck. You know, that's a pressure situation. You're fatigued. It's a long race. There's a lot going on, and you were hanging tough with Valverde, who's been around for 400 years. Your descent's good, and did that come from skiing, or how does it just comes from riding your bike?
So my descending still, well, in the past has been a major weakness, but relative to a runner who gets on a bike, it was good. And I think that has a lot to do with playing hockey as a kid and also downhill skiing. Just getting the sense of cornering, speed, body position, all those things are really important as a cyclist as well. However, I'm still working on my descending to this day. I have a coach named Oscar Size, who's a mountain bike downhiller, who through one of my sponsors, B210, we connected with him, as well as Juan Manuel Garate, my director. He's worked with them as well, and yeah, we connected with Oscar, and over the course of the off season, it's something that I worked on, and my descending wasn't terrible, but I think I've taken some big steps forward with that work that I did.
Where was your weakness? Like, I mean, if it's a complete different perspective when you're on the bike and you're seeing the road, and when we're sitting on the lounge watching television. When you talk about your descent wasn't terribly strong, what was it? I
think body position. That's one thing that's weird about cycling, is it's very guarded and guys don't share a lot of information. No one told me where my body should be when I was descending. So I actually had good reading skills. I could read the road pretty well. I could gauge because of skiing, because of hockey, I knew how to take the corner properly. But from a speed perspective, but I wasn't confident in where my body should be. And that resulted in me making a lot of mistakes just because I wasn't putting pressure through the right point in the pedal. I wasn't positioned properly. And then it would snowball from there. Like, I'd lose confidence and not brake properly and not read the line well because my body position was bad. However, we worked a lot on my body position over the off season, and now those skills of being able to read the line better and my braking have improved dramatically. And yeah, it was nice to just take realize that it is a technical discipline, and if you can work on your body position, you're going to perform better in the descents. And so, if we were to conclude that, and you were sort of offering it to the observer, your advice on what you've learned, how do you verbalize it? Well, I think ultimately descending is a really mental discipline, and the first and the most important skill that you need to learn when you're learning to descend is breaking things down and keeping things really simple. If you're able to just keep things simple and go over just one or two key points in your head, you're going to get down the descent. It's like golf. If you're playing golf and you just focus on first trying to get the ball forward, you're going to shoot the ball a lot better, hit the ball a lot better, I mean. Whereas if you have 50,000 things you want to work on at once, it's going to go in every direction. And so, yeah, the key is ultimately just breaking things down, keeping it simple, and just working away at it like you'd do anything else, because it is a learnable skill. You know, it's just like training. You have to do hours on the bike before you can, multiple hours on the bike before you can climb okay. You know? Michael, it's a real shame because I feel like we're just warming up at you now at the point where you should be at a team meeting. So I'm gonna. Right on. If you want to keep talking. No, I gotta go. I'm probably getting messages right now. Where are we at? Yeah, I'm late. Okay. Well, thanks very much. No problem.